Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Roberto Corona. I'm an Italian anthroposopher and astrologer, and in this video we're going to talk about the upcoming new moon in Capricorn on January 18, a moon that, as we're going to see, will involve one of the comets we mentioned in the 2026 astrology video. I'm referring to the non-periodic comet C 2024 E1, also known as Virchow's comet, who is a Polish astronomer. Now, this moon is very interesting also because it features the first of a series of stelliums. A stellium is a heap of planets in the same sign, and these stelliums will accompany us for most of the winter season. In fact, they are going to involve both the winter zodiac signs of Capricorn and Aquarius, and we will see their presence also during eclipse season 1 that is going to start in February. Now, before jumping to the chart, let's take a closer look at the comet in question and how it relates to the new moon in Capricorn. Now, in this picture, you can see a simulation for the sky during the new moon. So we have a nice cluster of planets. As you can see, we have really a bunch of planets here: Mars, Mercury, Moon, Sun, and Venus. Pluto as well, even if in this picture is not visible. And as you can see, Comet E1, that is indicated by this red cross here, is perfectly aligned with Venus, because if we take the zodiacal longitude of the comet, it falls precisely on the position of Venus. And in particular, the comet will be at 1 degree 34 Aquarius, whereas Venus will be at 1 degree 37. So this is a very, very close conjunction. Again, we want to stress that this is in particular a non-periodic comet. So it is a quote-unquote good comet. And according to Rudolf Steiner, its spiritual task is to remove a negative astral substance from the solar system and expel it for good. In addition to that, it is also very interesting to note that the comet will reach perihelion, that is, the point of maximum proximity to the Sun, on January 20th, so just 2 days after the new moon. So this is the chart of the new moon in Capricorn. Let's start as always with the latest changes in the sky. On January 2nd, Mercury entered Capricorn, whereas on January 17, the day before this chart, Venus entered Aquarius. In fact, as we saw, Venus is in the chart aligned with Comet E1 in the early degrees of Aquarius. So we have the stellium, as you can see, formed by a bunch of planets. We have Sun and Moon, of course, Mercury and Mars in particular. They are in a very close conjunction, by the way. And we're going to witness this heap of planets basically shifting, moving on towards Aquarius, and we're going to have a bunch of stelliums, a series of stelliums accompany us throughout this winter. Now, interestingly enough, this moon will gradually lead us towards Candlemas because it is starting on January 18. So we have 2 weeks after January 18, we're going to move towards February 1st and 2nd. And they are respectively the dates of the Christian festival of Candlemas, or if you will, the pagan festival of Imbolc. They are important festivals because they want to celebrate the awakening of light from the darkness of winter. And this is a moment where we can witness the first demonstration of strength, if you will, of the new sun born at Christmas. Now, in general, of course, this is a new moon, meaning that it represents the beginning of the manifestation process of the life forces of the earth, which gradually increase with the waxing moon up to the full moon. And the next full moon is going to be a full moon in Aquarius happening right on February 1st, so precisely aligned with Imbolc or Candlemas. So moving on to the chart, Sun and Moon are located here at 28 degrees and 43 minutes Capricorn in the stereo image of Sagittarius. And together with Mars and Mercury, they form, of course, the stellium, this heap of planets that we saw before. And by the way, we have a partile conjunction between Mars and Mercury exactly at 26 degrees of the sign. So this is definitely noteworthy. Now, as if that weren't enough, the cluster of planets is extended by Venus and Pluto that are, of course, in the first degrees of Aquarius. So we have this train of planets that is very, very powerful. But technically, all these planets in Capricorn and Aquarius, they are ruled by the same planet, the Lord of Capricorn and Aquarius, and of course of this new moon. And I am referring to Saturn, the Lord of Capricorn and Aquarius. As we know, Saturn is in Pisces and in conjunction with Neptune, and it is part of this minor grand trine between Uranus and Pluto here. Now, we know that it is part of this minor grand trine because a minor grand trine is a trine that is closed by these two sextiles. So we have this very, very powerful configuration that is definitely going to affect 2026. But apart from that, we have a direct involvement of Uranus by this very tight trine between the new moon and Uranus that is still in Taurus, precisely at 27 degrees Taurus, so making this trine directly with the new moon. This new moon is definitely unstable in this regard. Now, we have a very peculiar phenomena here. If we look at Jupiter, if you can see here, Jupiter in Cancer stands out in the chart because it is quite isolated, and this planet will tend to counterbalance the enormous load of planets ruled by Saturn that the chart features. And we're going to talk about that because a stellium usually comes with an effect called an antiodromia, that means fleeing towards the opposite sign. So we have literally all these Capricorn forces that can flee towards the opposite sign, that is Cancer. Now let's tackle the meanings of the chart, starting from the physical significations. First of all, the stellium in Capricorn can bring a certain burden to issues related to the sign. So we have work, entrepreneurship, as well as, in general, any form of control, of governance, of large structures such as companies, but even states. And since Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, is in the chaotic sign of Pisces, plus in conjunction with Neptune, we are asked here to bring some order, Capricorn order, to this chaotic Neptunian, Piscean energy, right? So this is not without challenges. Of course, it is a stellium, so we have this burden, right? But we have extra challenges coming from communication issues. Communication, in fact, can become quite fierce because Mars, the god of war, is in exaltation in Capricorn, and it is in close, super close conjunction with Mercury, the planet of communication itself. This means that the new moon invites us to give things a fresh start, a new moon, right? So new things, new start, to free ourselves of this burden, navigating through this Piscean chaos and trying to mitigate controversies. Now, this sort of liberating dynamic is definitely indicated not only by the trine of the new moon with Uranus, but also by Venus in Aquarius in conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius as well. Now, this is definitely an indication to avoid exaggerations because Pluto can be quite intense. Now, if all this work that the chart is demanding of us is going to fail or starts failing, what can definitely happen is that the stellium, due to the nature of this configuration, will tend to sort of, as we described before, flee into its opposite sign, that is Cancer. And in this case, we could experience an hesitation to confront the situation, and retreat back to our comfort zone, that is definitely well represented by a Jupiter in Cancer. Now, also remember that from an international perspective, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is all about unstable borders, right? So what we've said applies to war fronts as well, and last but not least, to the situation in Venezuela. Moving on to a soul perspective, Capricorn provides us with strength, with tenacity, with endurance, in the sense of responsibility, all virtues that we need in order to face this battle or these controversies. Now, we cannot deny a certain intensity of feelings of emotional drama as well, potentially, because Venus is in conjunction with Pluto, and this is going to bring some challenges in regard to decision-making processes, things that we have to decide, right? After all this burden that is aimed at freeing ourselves is going to become something else only if we're going to take responsibility, as Capricorn usually does. Well, I have to say that we can definitely, in this regard, rely on the revolutionary forces of Aquarius. So we have Pluto and Venus in Aquarius. We can also rely on the trine that the moon is making towards Uranus. But we also need to remember that anytime that we follow these revolutionary forces, this is usually accompanied by feelings of anxiety, feelings of worriness, because we expose ourselves to instability. Now, in this sense, Capricorn is useful because it comes with steadiness, and this is going to help to stay composed, especially if, again, Pluto brings us challenges, also sometimes revealing unpleasant sides of the people around us. And in this sense, we have these Plutonian forces, these instincts that can be somehow purified by the presence of the comet. And this brings us to the spiritual considerations of the chart, because from this perspective, as you can see, we have this heap of planets sitting on the back of the Sagittarius. So they are sitting on the animal part of the figure, that is the horse. Now, this part of the figure represents the lower or less evolved part of the centaur. And spiritually, this alludes to our baser impulses, which risk becoming entangled in this controversy we have discussed, especially because in astrosophy, Mars is there too. Mars represents the sphere of the fall of the human being. Now, we have seen that the comet E1 has a purifying function, and it is aligned with the impulses of Venus. And Venus is a benefic planet, and she usually seeks to bring balance and harmony. And in this sense, she is aided by the comet, which gathers these lower instincts, which in the case of Venus, again, are well represented by her conjunction with Pluto. And the comet purifies them, collecting them and expelling them from the solar system for good. In this sense, from a stellar perspective, there's a positive transition, I would say, from the image of the centaur to move towards the image of the Capricorn, but in particular the first part, so the horns of the Capricorn. Why the horns? Because in astrosophy, the horns of Capricorn are associated with the seraphim, who in turn are precisely the spiritual beings in charge of managing non-periodic comets. So we have the seraphim on two levels. On a stellar level, if we look at the horns of light, as Vili-Suker describes them, of the Capricorn on the one hand, and we have again the seraphim on a comet level, because we have the comet by definition managed by the seraphim and the cherubim too. Now, there's another very interesting indication here that comes from the name of the comet. Now, this name is taken from this Polish astronomer, Virchow, that could be translated as a person who lives high up, or metaphorically in the mountains. And in this sense, even in the name, we have an allusion to the mountain territory of Capricorn, or to its summit, right? That are the horns of the Capricorn. And I find that very, very interesting. Here, in general, I would say that we see a loving gesture coming from the gods, who help us by gathering part of this excess of lower astrality, carrying it away, in the hope that us, human beings, will then be able to prevail over this negative astral that is challenging us with heaviness, controversy, and war, and to raise us to the summits, to the peaks of this mountain, which undoubtedly represents very well our possible inner elevation. As always, thanks for watching. If you want to support my work, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell not to miss out on future astrological insights. I am Roberto Corona. See you in the next video.